Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, the little known secrets of paying for college, part 2 of our series on college funding with Brock Jolly, the college funding coach. Welcome to our second segment, Brock.
Great to be back.
All right, Coach, let's go. We got to pay for this. We got to have preparation, right fit college. I got to make sure that I'm matching up the right loans, types of loans. And so let's walk through. I want to pay for college. Give me your first, what you would consider one of your little known secrets.
Sure. I think the key is, like we talked about in the first segment, you got to be prepared, right? The kids have to do the work to go out to the universe of schools and be a great candidate for those schools. And the better they do in high school, the better they do on their standardized tests, the more involved they are, the more activities, all the things that we know that we need to do, the better they are suited to be attractive to those colleges and universities, which ultimately at the end of the day may mean more money from the colleges and universities because they want to attract that national merit finalist or that student that, you know, is a great athlete or a great, tremendously involved in the community, whatever it may be.
Okay, so when I'm looking at that, I'm looking at trying to figure out, I know there's no silver bullet, but I'm looking for a secret that you say most parents don't know. They just don't know it. Give me one of them.
Well, I think it goes back to the sticker price, right? For a lot of parents, all they're doing is they're looking and they're saying, okay, well, my kid could never go to that school because that school is way too expensive. What they don't understand is that maybe that school is looking for exactly what your child has to offer. And so I always tell families, cast a broad net. Don't look first and foremost at that sticker price because college is unlike virtually anything else we buy in our lives.
Are you saying that a lot of people are disqualifying colleges just strictly on the front end? They look at that tuition and they say, forget it, it's too high.
It's absolutely right because you got to understand, here's a secret. College is big business. We always have this ivory tower impression of the college, right? That it's this noble, nonprofit institution of higher education. And the reality is, it is that. But colleges also are big businesses. And they run very efficiently. They know that they've got to offer a certain number of students admission to get a certain number of students to say yes. And they've got to offer just enough money to get those students there and not a dime more.
Now, you and your team, you know all the loans available, the grants, all the things that they can tap into, and the schools that may be more benevolent. I was surprised to learn USA Today did an article that they were putting up a private school and a public school, and the public school didn't really help them that much.
That's exactly right.
But they went to the private school thinking there was going to be more money, they'd have to pay more, and it actually turned out to be less.
I'll give you a great example. We worked with a family a couple years ago, and their student was looking at an in-state public versus a very prestigious out-of-state private, and mom said, I could never pay for that. My child wants to go there. Well, long story short, we showed them how to pay less money at the time, it was a $68,000 a year school compared to an in-state public that at the time was $24,000 a year. It's a big difference, right? And the problem is that the in-state public, they don't have the money. The out-of-state private, the prestigious school, this student was attractive to that school, and they came up with the money to be able to bring that student to their school.
For less money than
for less out of pocket to the family. Absolutely. Yeah, we see it all the time.
I'm mystified by things like this. So I want to be able to look at, there's a fit issue here that you talk about. I've heard you talk about this. There's a fit issue here. And it's not always what you think it is. That's why we need pros on this. I think people are disqualifying themselves on the price tag. In-state's the only way to go. I'll never be able to afford anything else. This is why conversations like this are huge. Besides the wrong fit that we looked at, we had a misconception. We thought that out-of-state would be more expensive. What other things that we don't understand?
Well, when we talk about wrong fit, I mean, we see families all the time. Again, they say, my kid can go to any school they want, as long as it's an in-state public school, or as long as it's where mom or dad went to school. Kids look at it from the perspective and they say, I'm going to go to this school because it's where my best friend went to school, or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or they've got the great football team, or whatever it is. Lots of reasons that families choose schools that I would call the wrong fit. Not because it's a bad school. It's just simply not the right fit for that child based upon size, geographic proximity, all kinds of variables that I think are really important. So what ends up happening? The student goes to the school, they drop out, they transfer, they change their major 18 different times. All of that results in more cost to the family. What we want to do is minimize the cost to the family wherever possible.
Now, when you're looking at misperceptions and misunderstandings, talk about the EFC. Break it out. What's the acronym? What does it mean? Why do I care?
Sure. EFC is the expected family contribution. And what that means, that's the amount that the colleges and universities expect your family to pay on an annual basis. Many of you may be familiar with what's called the FAFSA, Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Every single college and university requires the FAFSA. There are also a little over 200 schools that require a form called the CSS profile. It's done by the College Board. It stands for the College Scholarship Service. Essentially, what all those forms do is they determine what is the expected family contribution. What's the amount that the colleges and universities expect your family to pay for the upcoming school year? And a lot of families, they think, well, I'm never going to qualify for aid. Or they've read on the college's website how much money they give to students and all of this. But the reality is a lot of times that money is not for a family like yours. Or if there's money given, maybe it's in the form of loans and work study, not in the form of grants and scholarships, the good stuff. Right? I want grants and scholarships because that's free money that doesn't have to be repaid. So what's critically important is to draw that line in the sand, understand it, understand about scholarships, right? How they work, how they don't work.
Now, talk about the difference, how you kind of bifurcate this issue, the need versus merit-based.
Right.
You know, what's the definitions of those and which one have you seen? Because I'm thinking merit-based, what does that mean?
Sure. So need-based is a purely economic math problem, right? It says, here's how much money I make, here's what I've got in assets, this is the amount of aid for which I am eligible. Merit-based is any variety of things. Your child plays the cello exceptionally well. They can dunk a basketball. They got a perfect score on their SAT. Any number of things that could warrant merit-based aid. But there are a lot of opportunities out there. And one of the big things that we see is oftentimes families wait until their child's been accepted and now it's second semester of the child's senior year of high school. Were you ever a senior in high school?
Shockingly, yes.
Yes. And how motivated were you, Steve, to fill out scholarship applications to go to college?
Zero.
Right, exactly. And so it's that senioritis mentality. Kids just want to get out. The last thing they want to do, mom and dad, is apply for college scholarships. And so what we say is it's never too early to start. We had a student a few years ago as a sixth grader won a $25,000 college scholarship.
Wow.
Won a national science fair. With that came a $25,000 scholarship. How great is that for mom and dad? It makes their planning just a little bit easier as you go through that process.
And serious pressure on his siblings.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Okay, so there's needs, there's merit-based. There is, and I think like you brought it before, people are, they look at a college, they look at that sticker shock and they go, they're done. But you're saying there is so much out there. And depending upon if you're willing to do a little bit of the homework, sounds like that you could actually afford to, well, the word would be, it's not so much afford, but you'd have funds to be able to pull this off.
Right, and it's always about liquidity, but it's also creating that strategy. It's figuring out the preparation and the fit, and fit means a lot of different things, right? But how do you figure out what school is the right fit for your child from their perspective and from your perspective, from the size, from the cost, all of these different variables. And I think the more that a family can do their homework early on, the more it pays dividends down the line.
When I'm looking at this jeopardizing retirement, I already lived the dream, the boomers, we already did it. We already screwed up our retirement. There's no doubt about it. How can I help go down 15 years to Gen X and Gen Y? How can I go down them and help them not do what we did wrong and then be able to prep not only for college, but also keep their retirement online, on time?
That's right. And well, when we see financial plans out there, so often there are financial plans where here's my retirement bucket, here's my home bucket, here's my college bucket. And I think one of the keys in any financial plan is to maximize flexibility. And what I mean by that is maybe you've got your college bucket, but then you've also got over here, this is money that can be used for college or retirement or the home. It's things that you maximize flexibility because one of the problems is kind of putting money into places where it can only be used for one specific need. to avoid taxes, penalties, that sort of thing. So, you know, we see a lot of families where they're in great shape for retirement, but have no college. Or conversely, they've got college all squared away, but they've totally jeopardized their retirement as a result.
I tell you what, this is the #1 fear among baby boomers now, entering into retirement, underfunded. Don't forget to watch our next segment on the proven strategies to help fund college, part 3 of our series on college funding. And keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on the show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, or our financial advisors. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the name of the business.